FreeSalonEducation.com invites you to join us every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for live and interactive classes from your favorite free salon education educators. So grab a mannequin, get set up, and make sure to share your results using the hashtag FreeSalonEducation. FSE Live starts now.
Hey guys, this is Matt Beck from FreeSalonEducation.com here with FSE Live in the morning. This was an interesting morning. So I'm excited to go over some haircutting stuff with you guys. We don't have a ton of time. We have, a good 45, 50 minutes, so that should be plenty. What I want to focus on today in this haircutting class, we're going to work on the structure of cutting a graduation, but I want to go through different techniques with cutting graduation and also work on overdirection. So I'm going to start off with standard sectioning on the mannequin. So what I did was I just took off, Thad, if you can show the top view, put the GoPro in the ceiling. So the top view, so we just took a square off right along the parietal ridge, across mid-crown, and then back over along the parietal ridge. Very symmetrical on the top, so we're not offsetting anything for this haircut. It's going to be a real standard graduation. Now, as we work through the back here, there's a couple things that when I started cutting a graduation that was tricky to me. And so I'm going to go through a few different ways that people do that and some mistakes that you can make along the way as you're cutting a graduation and a haircut. So when we're working in the back, the challenge here is, I'll turn the mannequin a little bit. You can see that the head starts off, it's rounded up here, so the elevation is pretty simple within this back area. Nothing's very uncomfortable, so it's pretty easy to cut. But then as we work around the occipital bone and the neck, the nape of the neck tilts in, whatever, as it goes in, that's where it gets uncomfortable and we're trying to weave in and out of the sectioning. So I want to show you guys a couple things that I do that makes it more comfortable for me. So we're going to start off, I took a section right down center back, clean that up a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I don't want to work in too big a section. So if we were going to cut this one length, I wouldn't want to take a big section. Let's say take it from the occipital bone down and just cut all of this hair, because if you try to cut too much hair, you're going to start pushing hair, and that's going to lead to an unsuccessful result as well. So you want to work in small sections. So we're going to take about an inch wide section through the back, and we're going to work horizontally. And the reason I like to work horizontally in the back in the beginning of the haircut as well is because that's just more comfortable for me from a hand position standpoint. Let me grab a clip. So I'm going to slide that clip up and away, and I'm going to take another horizontal line in the back. And when I first start off the back, I really like to work both sides at the same time, because that's going to allow me to make sure that the haircut stays balanced, and it just works better for me. But if you guys like to do one side first and go back to the other, you can do that as well. So we've got our first horizontal line in the back. Let me see if, yeah, that looks good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the head a little bit, mostly so you guys can see more of a body position standpoint rather than the actual cut. So I'm going to take my comb, and I want to cut this at one length first. And the reason I'm going to do that at one length is because it's not actually going to be a one length, and we've talked about this before, because the head is curving in. So if I cut this all flat here, we're going to have different levels of graduation starting already. So we're going to start off, I'm going to use my comb as a guide, and I'm going to cut my first line. Now I'm just going to follow that comb across. And then to clean it up, just use the tip of my scissor and work through. Just for any straggling hairs that are going through there. Again, just the tip of my scissor, clean up the line. Now when I work backhand, I don't always like to put my comb in here because then it gets a little too scrunched, I guess. So I'm going to go through and just freehand along the edge and line there. So I'll comb that down, again using the tip of my scissor just to clean up the line. And using that tip of the scissor at about a 45-degree angle works pretty well. So, I mean, straight up and down is not going to take much out. So if you just angle it a little bit, you can get a nice clean line in there. Now I'm going to take my next section. My next section is going to be nice and small again. And like I said, I'm going to show you guys what the difference between cutting this vertically and what it would be cutting it horizontally. So let's get this section out and then...
Hey, Matt, something I just want to point out that I just remembered that you taught me not that long ago.
Yeah.
While you're creating your section, the direction that you're combing all of the hair before you do it to make sure that you get a nice clean section. I'm just thinking about that because I just had to revisit that with someone the other day.
Okay. Showing
what a difference that makes having the hair go in the direction before you try to create the section rather than combing it all down and trying a section.
Okay, I know what you're saying. Yeah. So as we're basically, if we're going to take a parting and what Brian's saying and stuff that we've worked on before, if I was going to part vertically, I'm going to comb the hair, or let's just say obviously vertically is easy, but it's because we're combing the hair down. But if we wanted to take a diagonal back parting, what I would do is comb that hair exactly in the direction I want to take that parting, and then when I go through to take my section, it's nice and clean every time. So same thing horizontally. We're going to comb the hair that way, then take the section. So it'll be a few combs over, then take the section. Now, the reason I'm going to go in horizontally instead of vertically, and this is something that I learned a long time ago, is if we're working vertically, and let's say I take this section here, it's pretty simple. Let's see if I can move. So it's pretty simple to take your first section here, comb it out, and cut. So this side is pretty easy for me. But as soon as I move to the other side, and we're combing, and I'm holding my fingers in a downward position this way, to keep that same angle, because my elbow has to go so high in the air and it just wants to drop the whole time, it's not comfortable. So I get an inconsistent result within my graduation. So one side will be a little bit longer than the other, and I think that happens with a lot of people. So if I work horizontally, the only thing I have to worry about, put this down, is when I take my section or my parting there, I only have to worry about how much I elevate this way. So I need to make sure I stay consistent within this elevation, but it's comfortable. So I'm like this the entire time, as opposed to sometimes being like this and sometimes being like this. So it just works better for me. And that's why I work horizontally usually throughout the base till I get to the occipital bone, and then when I'm working on top of the head, then I don't mind moving to vertical, just depending on what haircut I'm looking to achieve. So I'm going to start off on the left side. Thad, you tell me if you can see that.
So far, so good.
So I just want to grab a little bit of the old hair that we had, the guide.
Matt, if you want to move the mannequin a little bit to your... actually, I think we might be good. The camera might be...
You know what? If I come over here...
There we go.
Probably be easier. And I'm going to take a little bit less hair. So you really want to make sure you see the guideline. Now, I don't want to take too much of this hair. Some people will scoop this all up here to cut, but what you're doing is you're stretching all that hair from the bottom, so your guideline is right away going to be way too short for the graduation. You're basically going to start layering it when you didn't want to. So I want to make sure I don't take too much hair. I don't put too much in my hand. And then I'm going to bring this out horizontally here. Find your guide.
Can you bring that back a little bit to your left? We can see your hand, we can see your scissors, but we can't see the actual section that you're cutting.
All right, let's go back to this side. We'll figure it out one of these days. This is the beauty about not doing it live, because you can make adjustments during it. So we worked horizontally, and now as I'm moving, it's going to be a slight diagonal forward. So just a little shift in the cut this way, because we're really just following that head shape as well.
We're gonna try the GoPro angle. See how that works for people.
Okay. So right away we start building up a nice little graduation in there. So I'll bring down the rest of that bit that I had there. And just really, during this, you want to focus on your elevation here, because you need that to stay consistent. And we'll go through and cross-check it at the end, but you really want to make sure that you're focused on that elevation so you don't build up too much weight or too little weight, whatever you're looking to go for.
As you're working with your elevation, do you want to kind of maybe just touch on what to expect with this type of haircut as far as how high you lift it versus how low you keep your elevation
Well, so that
when working horizontally?
yeah, so that's going to change throughout the haircut depending on the head shape and the density. So let's say that we have somebody that comes in that has a high density of hair. As I'm working through here, maybe I don't want the bottom to be so thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate it higher at this point. So we might have the elevation all the way up here throughout this part of the haircut, and then when we get to the top, start dropping it down more. It really just depends on where you want to shift that weight to. I think people get so caught up in building the line perfectly like this, like, so they want to see that crisp line, but really that line could shift and move depending on the density of the hair and where we want the majority of the weight to sit. Right now, because my elevation is here, that's where I want that weight to sit, and you can see that that's what's happening. It's building up right there. But then all of this hair that I'm going to bring down to this point, I don't necessarily want all the weight from this hair to sit here. I might want it to sit a little bit higher. So my elevation is going to shift with each panel that I take down. So you can see how that's kind of coming into place. Because we're over directing it slightly back, you're getting a little bit of that A-line kind of feel to it. That can be determined on how much you shift back and how much weight you want to push to the front, and length as well. So now we're going to go through take down another section here, another panel. We're combing it nice and tight over, so you want all those little hairs to get out of the way so you can stay nice and clean through the haircut. Once I finish the back, then we'll go back through and we'll cross-check it as well. So really just working those little hairs over and then clipping it away. So now I could move vertically because now this is pretty comfortable no matter where I'm at, but I'm going to stick to horizontal through this section and then we'll work vertical on the next. So I'm going to grab right out of the center. Grab a little bit more of the guide there. So my elevation is even higher at this point. Because, like I said, I don't want all the weight sitting down at the bottom. So we're going to bring up that elevation. You can see how it starts to shift that weight up a little bit. Move the mannequin. Now we're working on our diagonal forward. And because now I'm wrapping around towards the ear, there's less density there. So I can drop my elevation a little bit towards this part of right behind the ear, because this is really thick and then this gets skinnier. So I don't want to have the elevation super high through that whole part, because what's going to happen is this will be too weak in the line that we're trying to create in there. So you can see it started to shift that weight up. So now it's sitting a little bit higher, nice and soft. And we'll work this section here. Moving into that diagonal forward again. So now I'm going to comb everything down, because I'm going to start working vertically now throughout the haircut. So I'll comb all of this down. We only have about 2 inches left to work with. And I'm going to be working on top of my fingers at this point. So I'm going to part the hair a little bit, find a clean section, straight down vertical. So now the thing I like about working vertically is I can really see exactly how much weight I want to leave on this. So even if we wanted to cut and round this off, we could. I'm going to leave a little bit of that weight on there. So we're going to come out to our guide, and then I'm just going to work a line straight along my fingers. So you'll see there's going to be a buildup of weight from this point of the head, because this is obviously curved and higher here. So we're going to have a slight buildup of weight, but we want that to kind of finish off our graduation. So now I'm going to keep working that same angle throughout the back. So I'll just take a little bit of what I just cut. So we're working with a traveling guide. The traveling guide is going to give us a nice foundation and shape. If you overdirect something too far, as it starts to get heavier, you lose that structure a little bit. So but again, now that we're working towards the ear, move this around. The density changes, so I don't want to overdirect it all the way. I don't want to overdirect it too much, or I don't want to not overdirect it, because I need that weight to land in the corner there. So now, as we get to the corner of the head here, we're going to start to just overdirect everything straight back. Not to the center back, but just straight back to build up a little extra weight. I don't know if you can see that on there, but you can see how it's starting to get heavier now that we're over directing it into that corner. So now the last little bit right behind the ear, pull it out. Is also going to be over directed straight back and cut at our guideline. You see that, Thad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a great angle.
Now here's one thing. You're going to see that this hair is shorter than that. That's okay. That doesn't mean you need to cut all that off, which I think a lot of people would just jump to doing that. I like having that little bit of a disconnection because that starts to bring in that line, if you can see that. So just because that hair is shorter under there doesn't mean you need to cut it. You can always clean it in the dry cut, but not everything needs to be connected all of the time. So now we're going to work through the other side. We'll take a small bit from our guideline, staying on the same side of the head, but the only difference now is I'm combing the hair towards myself, because you always want to keep a consistency with how you comb the hair to the guide. So when we were working on the left side, I was pushing the hair to the guide, and now I'm pulling the hair to the guide, just so that we stay consistent with that. So we're going to comb it down. And again, just like the other side, this is traveling. And it's traveling until we get to that corner, and then we overdirect back. So everything over directed straight back. And then we start to build that forward weight line in there. So you can see it's not too heavy of a graduation. What I like is that we work through it, shifting our elevation to take out some of the density through the haircut, but then you still get the volume and the layering sort of throughout the haircut. I guess it's not layering technically, but you could see all that movement and texture in there, but it's still nice and sleek. So somebody that had a higher density of hair, it would be just as easy to work through it with higher elevation to lighten up the haircut so you don't get that big kind of fat bob at the bottom if you don't want it. If you want it, it's a different story. So what I want to do now is go through real quick, comb everything over, spray our hair down a little bit. Is everybody quiet on there, or are you guys just typing?
A lot of people just watching, enjoying. We got people skipping classes to watch this.
Yeah, people skipping fire drills.
Nice. So working diagonal back, you could see as I work through it, so there's the line that we're looking for, and that's our cross-checking. So we were working horizontally. I'm pretty much going to work vertically, but at a diagonal is more comfortable, so you can do that as well. So we're just going to work through here at a diagonal back, and I'm just going to check a couple spots. If I see something crazy, there's our disconnection, so I don't want to cut that off. That might be a place where sometimes people are cross-checking and they see something, they cut it off, and it completely changes the haircut. So you don't want to do that either. So just as you're working through, be aware of your disconnection. But you can see that line's pretty good. It's got a little bit of a round to it. That's because of the shift in the elevation. So I think we're pretty good with that part of the haircut. So now I'm going to work into the sides. And what we're going to do with these classes and how they work is I'm going to cut the sides of this haircut. Hopefully you guys have picked up quite a few tips within the graduation and all of that and how we worked it. And then the next time I cut hair, which will be in a couple weeks, we're going to go through and we're going to do dry hair cutting and detailing on this same mannequin. So we'll smooth it out and do all of that so that you guys don't have to sit through the blow dry, and also so these classes aren't super long and you can kind of take those tips, try them out, and then work on the dry cutting later. So we could do a couple things here. Depending on the look that your guest wants, you could either keep over-directing everything back to that point and really build that A-line feel to it with also removing some weight, or you could square off the graduation, which is something that I like to do, and we'll do that because I think at this point a lot of people know how to just over-direct hair, but I want to cut a nice square feel to it. So like I said, we push that weight into the corner, but that doesn't mean that we need to keep it there. It just means I wanted to push weight there to have a nice solid foundation for going in later and cutting the shape that I want. So if I didn't push that extra weight there, I'd really have nothing to cut. So I'm going to comb this up and out of the way. I don't want to cut it all at the same time. Again, that's has to do with pushing the hair too much. So we'll comb the hair down. Turn. Hopefully. So I'm going to comb the hair down using the wide teeth of my comb so there's not too much tension in it. A lot of times they'll have their ear, depending on how their ear sits on their head, it might kind of push this hair out a little bit, and that's fine. Everybody says tap on the ear. I just think if you comb it lightly over the ear, it works just as well. So now what we're going to do is come across here, remove that corner, and we're just going to work a nice square line in the haircut. Now, I want to soften the rest of the hair that's going to come over top of this. So I don't want to cut all of that hair just square at the bottom. I'm going to have a slight bit of elevation to it. So we'll break this in half. And I'll grab a little bit of that hair to work as a guide. And I'm going to just slightly elevate the hair and work that line a little bit more. So then it falls nice and soft rather than having just kind of a harsh, floppy bottom on the haircut. Break this in half. Slight elevation, working square. The last little bit. Now I pull the hair from the bottom into this for my guideline because it's too far away at this point. So just grab a little bit of that old hair and use that as your guide. Make sure you're not following the round of the head here. It is going to be a slight over direction back. So then you guys can see how it tucks nice right around the chin length instead of it just being a super heavy feel to the haircut. Whoa, buddy. Knocking myself out.
Matt, I don't remember. Someone's asking, are you going to Orlando?
Yes.
Yeah?
I'll be in Orlando. We're doing the same thing in Orlando that we've done in all the shows. So that's kind of the goal to end this year's hair show run. So we'll be interviewing some of the artists there.
Cool.
Cool. And then I'm done being an interviewer after that. Well.
All right, I'll do it.
Not completely done, but I'd like to do some hair now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Same thing, working across with just a little bit of that hair. get that line moving. And somebody's probably going to ask, how do you know that both sides are even? Well, hopefully if I did my haircut correctly, they are even. This is where you pray to the hair gods that you didn't mess it up. But yeah, if you check it with balance and you're doing all of your cross-checking and all that, it really should be the same pretty much on both sides. And if you need to make, it shouldn't be too extreme if there's a difference. So you could go through and just make some minor adjustments. But because everybody's head is a little bit different, so you're not going to necessarily be symmetrical on both sides. So just working square, across. What's funny, Justin? Are you laughing?
I'm chuckling.
Chuckling?
Chuckling. I was just referred to as J-Man.
J-Man? I enjoy these classes in the morning because it was much less stressful getting ready for everything.
Well, because everyone's a lot quieter because it's early.
Right.
There's much mayhem in the background.
You know, I've calmed my road rage the minute I walked in that door.
Ah, it's pretty even. Success. All right. So what we're going to do is
Good job.
in 2 weeks, I'm going to leave this top out because I like to cut the top of a graduation dry for the most part. I'm not saying I do that all the time, but for next week we're going to because we're going to focus on dry hair cutting. So all of this will be smoothed out. Whoa. She's tired. All of this will be smoothed out, but you can see with having that square section, it gives us a lot of fun to kind of go through and create texture, really just give this haircut its own unique feel because there's hair all around it that's long. So we can go through and do all kinds of dry cutting techniques. We'll cut probably a fringe in there in a couple weeks when we get back here and do it. So next week, I believe we have Drea coming in.
Yes.
Yeah. So Drea is going to do not a graduation. That's the brain. Drea is going to do some long hair. So I'm really excited to see that.
Like formal styling long hair.
Formal style.
I'm just clearing that up because somebody did request that we do
a long haircut.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to do a long haircut as well if I have any mannequins left with long hair.
I can model for that.
You keep doing it.
I know.
We keep taking them
Drea, I
down.
don't think
I'm
you're
like, oh, there's my really nice balayage one.
I have
And
long
now
hair.
she's got a bob.
Yep. Well, here's the thing. You have, like, when you do, like, I did the shag haircut, which was pretty long. I mean, they're only so long. They're only this long. So we do have some really long hair mannequins, though, which we could cut into. And
Give
do
them a
some
nice
fun-
haircut.
Yeah, some fun stuff. So we'll do a long haircut for you guys. And if you have any other questions, post them in the comments or video requests or anything, because we're doing these videos every week, every Wednesday morning now at 10 a.m. So all you guys have to do is log in and join us every Wednesday morning. This seems to work better. We have Splitting Hairs coming up tonight, which is our live video podcast. That'll be at 7:30 p.m., which it seems to be very fun at night. So it's the end of our day. We get to talk hair and kind of relax instead of stressing and getting the class together and all of that. So I thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that these tips help you. It's definitely, these are little things, little adjustments that I've made when I cut a graduation that have really helped, because I think if you get too stuck in, I have to cut the whole thing vertically, or worrying about where your elbow's at. If you just move horizontal and just focus on your elevation this way, and you can get those perfect lines in the haircut and then work vertically towards the top, you'll be more comfortable and it should work out good. So is there any other questions on there or anything?
No, I think we're pretty good.
All right. Well, everyone, enjoy your salon day. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube and share it with your friends. We love that. And that's pretty much it. Thanks to Mercado Products for sponsoring videos, and Mizutani Scissors, which is what we use today, the DB20 scissor I love. So you can get those on shopfse.com. But you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.